First Minister's meeting here in Montreal is over, but now the battle over cap and trade, or carbon tax, as Doug Ford calls it, the battle between the Prime Minister and the Premier is about to get even more heated. Ford claims the goalposts have been changed, that the Prime Minister told them that even if Ontario hit the 30% reduction in emission targets that it's promising, it won't be enough. Ontario will have to do more.
We have a great environmental plan. My minister, Rod Phillips, which is a great minister, came up with a plan that we're going to hit the 30% to the Paris Agreement without a carbon tax. So the goal is to hit the 30%. We all agree on that. I'm all for it. But all of a sudden, we had a little surprise in the room. The goalpost got changed. The goalpost got changed when I said, it doesn't matter how we get there as long as we hit 30%. What I was told by the Prime Minister is, well, no, that's not the case now. After everyone signed on to 30%, some will carry more water than other provinces. That sets uncertainty within our economy.
In the Paris Agreement, Canada agreed to reduce carbon emissions by 30% from 2005 targets by 2030. Ford scrapped the previous provincial Liberal government's cap and trade after he was elected and announced a new climate plan last week that promises to meet the 30% target. However, the feds are saying Kathleen Wynne's government had set a 40% reduction target and Ontario can't go backwards. They add Trudeau was counting on Ontario to hit a 40% reduction to help the country meet the national target.
On the issue of climate change, I think it's clear that Premier Ford and I differ on the matter. I believe that we need to put a price on pollution and help Canadians through this change and build a better future with both good jobs and a protected environment for future generations. Premier Ford put forward a plan that represents a step backwards. He exited the cap and trade agreement that he was in with Quebec and California, and he thinks we should make pollution free again. That is not something that I agree on. We have approached an approach that recognizes that Canada's targets are national targets. And even though the Premier may want to play games with numbers, what is clear is we are going to move forward, as we always have, in a very consistent way. And if anyone is moving the goalposts, it's Premier Ford.
Now, the federal environment minister was asked repeatedly just how much higher Ontario would have to go above 30% if it doesn't do cap and trade. She didn't answer that question, but she did make it very clear that the federal government doesn't believe Doug Ford's new climate plan will meet the intended reductions.
Let's be clear. Premier Ford does not have a credible climate plan. That Premier Ford believes that it should be free to pollute. And under their plan, which is extremely thin on details, it's been widely panned, that they would pay polluters not to pollute. That's a failed approach.
Now, Doug Ford already has an extremely testy relationship with the Prime Minister, and he's been the most vocal of all the premiers against cap and trade. Trudeau is promising to impose cap and trade on Ontario in the new year if it doesn't put a system in place. Ford has put $30 million aside to launch a court challenge against the feds over this issue. New Brunswick, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan are also fighting the feds over cap and trade.